In this episode of Break the Mould with Anwyn, I interview Louise Kerwin, and she is a naturopath, kinesiologist. She's also studied hypnotherapy and NLP, master practitioner of NLP, like I have with Evolve and Relaunch. And I wanted to have this interview because it's really quite relevant to my up and coming program, A Recipe for Respect, because part of respect is respecting ourselves, really. We have to understand our emotional and mental and physical needs and respect our bodies. And so part of my program is to cook a meal, but an emphasis on really nourishing food that is going to be something that will make you strong and in your relationship when you eat well. So I hope you enjoy it. So welcome to Break the Mould with Anwyn. I'm here today joined with Louise Kerwin. And what would you say that what's your job that you do?
I am a naturopath in women's hormones. I'm an empowerment coach and hypnotherapist, kinesiologist, and a massage therapist. So I do multiple things, but pretty much it's all the same thing, really. It's just about helping people be the best that they can be for themselves.
Great. And so, what's your specialty? Because you specialize in women's health mainly, is that right?
Yeah, so women's hormones. I specialize in Hashimoto's, autoimmune disease, thyroid disorders, PCOS, pretty much anything that's women hormone related. And then on that mental, emotional side as well, with anxiety, depression, and then how that affects their lives as well. And pretty much it's from about 24 upwards. So I have quite a wide age group, but they all go through very similar things.
Yeah. So I'd never heard of PCOS.
Yeah. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is what they call it, which is a really random name because it's not really what it's about. And with PCOS, they generally have a higher testosterone level. They have really a lot of blood sugar imbalances, and they can get little cysts on their ovaries, but we all have cysts on our ovaries anyway. So with PCOS, you have them on the outside of the ovary, not just on the inside, but it disrupts their hormone balance, and that disruption then causes all sorts of metabolic health issues.
So and that starts quite early in adolescence, doesn't it?
You can have it from the moment you have your first menstrual cycle, yes.
Right. And how does that play out? What happens to somebody?
You can find that they get a lot of abdominal weight gain, hair on the chin, hair on the face, excessive body hair overall. With the high androgens and testosterone, they can get a lot of masculine type features, which is the facial hair. Their voices can change. They have very challenging menstrual cycles as they go through the flow of the month, and so they don't get that balancing of the progesterone as the estrogen decreases coming into a menstrual cycle. But it also can lead to quite a heavy bleed as well during that menstrual cycle itself. So balancing out their blood glucose levels and their insulin levels can help really stabilize them, and that can then help ease the swings with the hormones. But we also look at really correcting the hormones as much as we can from a nutritional component, but also from a herbal component, but you have to really work on that blood glucose level and help stabilize that. And then you look at the emotional components as well.
Oh, so that's also related to diabetes type 2, isn't it?
It can be.
Often.
But yeah, you can. You don't have to have PCOS and diabetes. but you
Okay.
can do, and vice versa. If you've got diabetes, you're not necessarily going to have PCOS.
Mm. And what can be done about these conditions? How do you help them?
Well, you're looking really more like a very holistic look, and you're looking at their entire life. It's not just nutrition, it's not just the hormones, it's not just the emotions. You're looking at a person as a whole being. Because if you look at one thing only, then everything else can fall out of balance. So you're really going, okay, how can we create that balance within the whole system, the whole body? And then doing it slowly. So if you do it slowly, then it becomes habit. Once it becomes habit, it becomes life. And so we make slow, consistent changes overall. And then it's amazing. Like I can have women that reduce their weight and their size down. They get good menstrual cycles. Their blood glucose and insulin levels have dropped. They have more energy. Their hair's growing back and growing back where they want it, not where they don't want it. And so they get a nice balance within themselves, and then doing the emotional work as well, I find really is kind of the icing on the cake and really helping them feel more empowered within themselves.
Yeah, well, we know that there is that correlation because what we've learned in our training is that the body actually is our unconscious mind, isn't it?
It sure is. And if you don't think there's any sweetness in life, is generally when we start looking at insulin dysregulation, type 2 diabetes, anything that's our blood sugar related in our body will definitely show if you really feel that there is no sweetness in your life.
Interesting.
Mm.
And so what got you into this line of work?
Which, because I do a few things. I originally started as a massage therapist back in just around the 2000 as I was playing soccer. And so I was massaging my teammates as well as getting massages myself. And then from massage, I went into aromatic medicine. From that, I did Tuana, which was my Chinese medicine, which is TCM acupressure massage. So I did that. Then I went into kinesiology because I love kinesiology, because for me, that was my first start at really connecting the body and the mind together and really seeing that connection and being able to make some big changes. So I got my advanced diploma in that. And then I went into that because I wanted more. Like there were so many questions that I had. And I was like, how do I get the answers that I want? So I did my advanced diploma in naturopathy. And then from there, I was specializing in thyroid disorders because I had a thyroid disorder, and so with my children. And so it's like I lived it. So I knew that I could help others, especially women, help them through that and find a balance within their lives. And then I was looking at different forms of coaching. So I did a lot of spiritual coaching as well. I went through that. And then I found Evolve and Relaunch and have done all their stuff, their NLP, their master prac, their hypnotherapy and advanced hypnotherapy. And because trying to find balance within myself as well.
Yes.
Because I know that if I'm not centered and grounded and balanced and strong within myself, then I can't really give that to my clients as well and help them find it within themselves. So I've just like been stepping up through all the things that I do and just growing the knowledge that I have, so then I can really help the women and the men that come to me to really feel more, like I said, feel more empowered within themselves about their health, about their well-being, about their mental health, and all those other things that come in between it as well. Like I put my Hashimoto's into remission, which is an autoimmune component. And I don't have the hypothyroidism that comes with it, but generally you find any women or any men that have hypothyroid, you have to look at their life and see where they were the doormat and put themselves last and did everything for everybody else. And so they tend to use all their adrenal energy. When that starts getting depleted, the thyroid's not coping, and vice versa. So it can swip both ways. You use all your thyroid energy and you don't have enough of your adrenal energy. There's a lot of imbalance that comes with that. And so we tend to find that pretty much anything that ails the body, ails as in a health issue, starts in our mind, regardless.
Yes, yeah. And so how do you think these conditions affect relationships?
I think that can put a really big strain on relationships. And it doesn't matter what type of relationship that you have, whether it's gender neutral, same sex, binary, it doesn't really make a difference, because there are not even allowances, but good communication and connection helps with understanding how each is going through different phases in their life, especially if a woman's going through a really challenging menstrual cycle and they're going through a lot of pain and migraines, need to lay down in bed for a week, unable to look after the children, have to take medication. And so I find that it can really affect a lot of relationships when there's not a lot of understanding around happening, and knowing that there is not a lot that they can control about certain aspects of it, or that they don't know that there's anything they can do.
Yeah. So first of all, it's that understanding of what's going on, but well, maybe even a step before that is the actual interest in understanding that. And rather than that thing that maybe they just say, well, you're just complaining a lot about this and I'm sick and tired of hearing about it or something like that. I'm just assuming. I don't have any of those conditions, but and I would have thought that men maybe fit into that category a bit more, but as you've experienced both sorts of relationships, haven't you? You had children in a heterosexual relationship, did you?
Yes, that's correct. I have 3 birth children, and I have 1 foster daughter.
Heterosexual and
yeah,
other.
it's been really interesting seeing it from both perspectives. And in all reality, I thought it would be easier being with a female. It doesn't make any difference sometimes. And there's a lot of women I see too, when they're with a group of women, their cycles all tend to fall in and they'll all cycle at the same time. And unfortunately with me, that didn't happen in our relationship. So it was like I cycled at one stage, my partner cycled out at another. And so there were just like a couple of weeks in every month where you just go, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to see you. And I was just like, stay out of my way. But I was lucky that I really didn't have a huge amount of problems with my cycle, but my ex-partner did at the time. So it was like, you just need to stay away, it was safer, which is unfortunate. So it does put a lot of pressure into relationships. And even with women, I think, even though you do understand and you can have an understanding of what they're going through, unless you really want to be there, it doesn't make a difference.
I have a friend, her name's Hope Sartoris, and she's actually been part of a project where they made a film called Menopause, The New Self, 6 Stories. And it's all about, it's actually 4 women's stories and how from menarche to childbirth to menopause. And it's really interesting because they showed this screening, but there wasn't many men there. And, I just wondered whether, they were interested, but I think there would be a certain amount of men that would be interested in knowing about these stories. And it is becoming a little bit more common that, like, say, menarche is celebrated by the fathers too. And that's something that even my daughter at her age, and she's like 30 now, that was a thing then, like there's lots more groups that are women's groups that are getting together and celebrating this and going through rituals and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's really lovely when we bring that awareness to it. But, like what it really highlighted was that each of these stories is so different and such a personal experience that they're completely another, story.
Well, you're right. And I think it's only just starting to become more in the educational system about what actually happens to a woman's body, it was always pushed sideways. And like, I remember when my daughter first got her period, like the first thing that she said to me, she goes, "Does this mean I'm going to be raped now, Mum?" And I went, "What?"
What did she say?
She said, "Does this mean I'm going to be raped now?"
Oh.
It was like, where did that come from, sweetie? So we had to sit down and have a really big talk about it, because the girls at school had me saying that when they got their period, that that's what happens. Really blown away by that, and the stories that get told around that time. Like, I hear, even with a lot of the teenagers that come to see me, they all assume that having a period means they're going to have horrific pain, and that's not necessarily the case. And then I have older women that'll come to me, well, older, like women in their 30s, all going, "Oh, I don't want to have perimenopause. It's going to be hell. I don't want to get to menopause." It's like, we're not educating our women that it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be challenging when they're looking after ourselves, because we're given so much different information. There's no consistency. It's not talked about. It's talked about more now, but it was never talked about a lot. It was always, "Oh, you don't talk about those sorts of things." It's, you go, why not? Why not? If a woman doesn't know what the color of her blood means, or what discharges are, what colors they are, what the smell is, that some women get lumpy labia and it's normal, and so they don't seek any support or help from anyone. And so it is still quite hush-hushed a lot.
Yeah.
And I talk to so many that just assume that going through perimenopause is going to be hell, and same with menopause, and that's not true. And then the doctors, I find now too, just want to give them the pill, and you go, but that doesn't solve anything, it just suppresses. And so when they come off the pill, they get a rebound effect, they feel like crap, and they go, "Oh, see, I knew it was going to be bad." Just go, okay. And that part's really interesting too. So there's not a consistency with languaging or knowledge out there to really support women through that transition. Because in reality, we start menopause, that perimenopause, right, from 30. It's early. Everyone goes, "Oh no, it's not until you're in your late 40s." No, it starts in your 30s. And menopause is only classed as being 1 year post your last period. And everyone goes, "Oh, I've been menopausal for 10 years. You can't be menopausal for 10 years.
No.
Causes the cessation, 1 year cessation after your last menstrual, your last bleed. And so there's still a lot of misinformation about that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know I was on the pill from, late teen till whenever it was, and 40 or something. And I actually had pretty horrible experience of, that later years.
Hasn't had that ability from the brain to the ovaries to actually cement that pathway. And then because the pill blocks that pathway, and then all of a sudden you take that pill away, and the brain still doesn't know how to send those signals.
Because I remember learning about that in science. Pituitary gland sends a message or something.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, there are lots of things that impact it, like our mental health impacts it, what we eat impacts it, what we don't eat impacts it, what stress levels we're under will impact it, what our general lifestyle is like. Are we a rushing woman who does not stop will impact it. And then add in any other health condition as well, and that will impact it as well.
Yeah. So from experience, have you noticed that people on, more healthy diets cope with menopause better?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think mine was very extreme. It was, I had the hot flushes and things, but and maybe it affected my sleep, but I didn't have really extreme, version of it.
No, that's it. Like, I didn't have hot flashes at all. I just had no period for a year, and it was like, "Oh, scored, nice." That was it. And so I would go, oh, I felt quite lucky in a sense that I had it that easy when I heard everybody around me tell me how bad it was going to be. But I had a really good diet. I was working on my mental, emotional health. I exercised. I had protein at each meal. Like, I really supported my body. And that's where I find that you have those stable building blocks towards having healthy hormones makes a massive difference.
Yeah. And yeah, so menopause affects a lot of areas of our lives. And like you were saying, your hormones, and that affects our emotions and sleep deprivation, and which leads to stress and weight gain. And so it's all it's like everything triggers everything else, doesn't it?
But I have found though, stepping into menopause and being postmenopausal has given me so much more empowerment in my life as well. I find that this time of life, women feel the most empowered. If you've done
I agree with that.
And because I think you really start to know what it is that you like and what you don't like. You know what you want to do. You know where you want to be, or kind of know the direction. You recognize if a relationship's not working, and then you can transition through what's happening with that, whether you save a marriage, work through a marriage, or you leave. And I find that alone, giving the women that power, their power back, rather than having to just do everything, when in reality we would hope that if it was in a perfect world that everybody would chip in and help, rather than mums just do everything.
Yeah, so I was thinking that when they're really busy and they do have a lot of things to do, and there's not enough time in the day, what do you recommend for them for time out? Like, how do they change that? Because that can be habitual.
It's boundary setting. It's like kids are perfectly capable at the age of 3 and 4 to stack the dishwasher of their own plates. But mums, I think, take it on board that they need to do everything because that's their job, even though they go out of the house for their job as well.
Yeah.
And there doesn't seem to be any good discussions or communication or conversations around how it's going to look with children, with partners, with work, with school, and all of that. And I think the more women start to feel empowered, that balance starts to really come into play, where everybody chips in. But when mums do it, the kids don't do anything. They don't learn a lot, unfortunately. And
they're kind of basic skills, aren't they? They're life skills.
Everyone needs the life skills. And there's a lot of generations out there that don't have that life skill. Unfortunately, my kids are probably one of them. Like, I was one of those super mums. I did not stop. I worked full time. I studied. I did all the things for the kids, everything. And I thought, yes, best mum
You're
ever.
Wonder Woman.
I thought I was Wonder Woman. Yes, I did. And I took great pride in it, and then didn't realize how much it impacted my health.
Yeah.
And my mental health and my well-being. And I look back at it now going, that was not smart. And I really needed to change it if I could. So now I'm undoing all of the damage that I did back then as I'm going through, as I said, menopause, postmenopause, because I'm rebuilding my system inside and outside.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone's done any studies on this. Like, years ago, the mothers would stay at home and they didn't go to work, and so that was their job. And then we had the women's lib movement, and we were allowed to work and do that, and then we took on everything. It is getting easier because men are contributing. Like, my husband cooks every night, so I can't complain.
Very nice. I like that.
He's well trained. Yeah. So I wonder if, like, and women years ago always outlived their husbands. Like, like the husbands died from overwork or whatever it was, like they died young, and then their wife would live on for, you know, maybe another 20 years after them.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. I find it now the men are a little bit older, but they still, the mortality rate is a lot higher in men than it is in women at that age. And there was a really interesting study that I was looking at the other day about, it was about emotional resilience. And
Oh, yeah.
if you have a good support network around you, you actually live longer. That if you
Yes.
didn't have that emotional support, then you don't, unfortunately. And it was a really interesting study that I found quite fascinating, actually. And the part about it was they called it emotional contagion. So if you were around people who felt lonely, who didn't have that support network, you actually felt the same way they did. So you would still feel everything that they felt, even though if you still had a partner at home and you had friends, you would actually absorb what was going on with them not. And it was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, Hugh McKay talks about that in his latest book about, like being more socially connected by the internet and not socially connected, less socially in the in-person sense. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think we really forget that we do need that connection. A lot of our generation coming through, they only know social media, they only know technology. And then unfortunately with COVID kind of reinforced that. It was like you could only communicate through a screen. And I think they lose a lot of the in-person connection, and I think that impacts their health as well. It'll be interesting to see the studies that come out 10 years down the track about how much that's actually really affected the connection component and how they feel within themselves.
And so what you've people, your clients that you've seen and all these health issues that they've had, how can you help them with hypnotherapy?
So generally I help them by basically really looking and finding what underlying programming is there. And I tend to find the majority of it comes from childhood. It can come from relationships. And I look to see at the stories then that they've created around that programming. And then we look at changing and just releasing it and transforming it into something that's more empowering, more courageous, more uplifting, and how they want to feel. So it means then that they can actually stand up strong, they can stand within themselves, and they don't keep repeating those patterns. And the transformation is just phenomenal. I watch a lot of women who come in so withdrawn, downcast, don't smile, like there's no glimmer in the eye at all, to leaving and laughing and smiling and feeling good, and body posture changes, really going through her whole life and really seeing the different patterns and programs that were tucked in there, and the different dynamics and relationships and the repeating relationship breakdown stuff. That was really fascinating to see when you get to spend such a large amount of time with someone, and then cleaning it up and then doing some shadow integration work as well. It was just absolutely amazing and beautiful to watch that transition as they come through. And it amazes me what our human mind is capable of. That unconsciousness has everything that you possibly need, and then you just clear away the clutter, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can do that, I can do that. Because so many people think hypnotherapy is like barking like a dog and eating onions, and good old stage hypnotherapy. But when it comes to helping women with their hormones and with their health and with their mindset, really cleaning it up, making those changes and empowering who they are for them and only for them, makes such transformational changes in their lives. And that's what I really love seeing now.
Mm. And so what's gastric band hypnotherapy?
So gastric band hypnotherapy is a session where basically after a session, you believe that your stomach is the size of a 50-cent piece. So instead of actually going through surgery, you can actually do it hypnotically and you have exactly the same effects without any of the surgical damage. Because gastric banding surgery, your whole digestion is changed for life and you can never ever get it back. You don't absorb vital nutrients. You can only eat.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you're unable to process your iron, your B12, your B6, and a couple of other essential minerals. So then you have to take a supplement for life to fill that. You still don't break them down as much because you don't have the stomach to do so.
Right.
It also leads to a whole lot of problems. And then you're missing a whole body part. A body part we need. It has more functions than just digesting food. It's only the starting place. So doing it via hypnosis, your gastric band, what they do is they cut the stomach in half and actually band it off and take some of it away, or they bypass it. So they'll go from the top and then bypass it to the bottom and kind of shunt the stomach sideways. You can get partial gastric band surgeries where they take half the stomach, but they never take the good part of the stomach. So that's real, and it comes with so many challenges. So when you can do it with hypnosis and get exactly the same effects, but then also work on all the beliefs, all the stories, that old programming as well for why somebody eats the way they do, because we all know that when we eat like that, it's emotional.
Yes.
And you start cleaning that up, then they're eating healthy. That doesn't disappear. Like, instead of going from one diet to another diet, you're actually instilling that you're eating well all the time and that there's no restriction as such with eating. You're eating healthy food, so you're sustaining your body and your weight reduces and you find that it just melts then. And you don't have to go through surgery to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know there were so many risks.
Phenomenal. You can die from gastric band surgery.
Oh wow.
It's and the recovery rate is long, and
I could imagine.
It's interesting because I watch what people eat, and then once you haven't cleaned up their stuff, I had a client and she would send her son to the shops to buy Mars bars that she'd puree down and drink because she couldn't eat and digest them. And so she'd never worked through any of the stories. And so I think there are some really good research papers out there about the benefits of it, but they don't talk about the negative side effects of it. No
pharmacy companies ever do.
No, because it can put you in hospital with severe gastric pain, with severe constipation, with diarrhea. It's crazy. And knowing when there are other alternatives to it, it's interesting. But people want things really fast these days, and they don't realize how fast hypnotherapy is. That's the thing.
I know. Hypnotherapy is very fast.
It's instantaneous, and knowing that, and then knowing too that when you do the cleanup work and on why you overeat, then you don't overeat, then you reduce your weight. That's it. And then because that then helps your body recalibrate and find its balance again. With hypnotherapy, I think it's slightly different too, because you don't have to believe in it for it to work.
Well, that's true.
Because it works regardless. I think what happens though is if you have so many people,
you have to want to change though.
You do have to want to change, and you've also got to really want to not listen to people who are there to pull you down.
Yeah.
And someone's going, oh, here, just have that, a little bit won't help.
Yeah.
Won't make a difference. Oh, just have a drink. That's okay. You can have one drink. And it's about empowering them enough to go, oh, no, that's okay. I don't need that. It's I have this. I've got that. I don't need anything from anybody else because everything that I need is within me already. And that's what I mean by really empowering people to know that they have everything, what they need is already within them, and to just bring that out so they can see it.
Yes, yeah, and making the choice. I decided that I would give up smoking, because if I was going to see people, my clients, and I'd be a hypocrite, and then you can't prove that it's truthful. And so I basically drew the line in the sand and said, this is it. I'm not a smoker anymore. That's it. I had to make that decision, and then, and basically just keep reiterating that, the self-talk.
But isn't it amazing? Like, we all have self-talk regardless.
Yes. Yeah.
Every single one of us. It's whether
we're hypnotizing ourselves.
We do hypnotize ourselves, and it comes down to, can you stop it fast enough and go, hang on, that's not what I'm thinking. That's an old belief that I don't follow any longer, and reword it. Or do I let that story just keep on playing? And so you just keep on going down that same pathway, as you said, and re-hypnotize yourself.
Yeah.
Because
and this is also that you help women with confidence and anxiety. So is that through hypnosis?
Pretty much through hypnosis, through the master prac coaching stuff. And because I intertwine my naturopath stuff with my NLP, with my hypnotherapy, that I'm coming at it from all different levels and angles. So it's a big picture. It's not just a slice of pie, pretty much. They get the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I've got ones that I work for with the gastric banding hypnotherapy, and they come back regularly because we're still cleaning up a lot of those beliefs, so they stay on track with where they want to be for themselves, not for somebody else. And really looking at those secondary gains, it's like, if you're doing it for somebody else, then it's not going to last.
No.
If you're doing it truly for who you are and where you want to be, then it does. And it's literally life-changing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so then, in relation to your health and relationships, what's important to you?
Relationships and health definitely, relationships definitely. I find too that when you clean up your own stuff, you're actually not dragging that into your relationships. So you're not talking from a teenager's perspective, or a broken relationship that happened 30 years ago, and you're bringing all of that baggage of trauma into a new relationship. Because when you release it, you can actually communicate better. And I find that makes a really big difference. And it's the same with your health too. Like, if we start really working on why you're there, how and why did you get where you are, and start working on all of that's behind you, so you make better informed choices, you make better empowered choices, rather than repeating patterns, that change happens automatically.
And so what's important in a relationship for you?
I've just come out of, I finally got my divorce finalized, which is brilliant. So
well, and wouldn't you say, though, that would inspire you to be really clear about your values? Like, because it's certainly
very much
and away from motivation. Like, you would say, I don't want this.
Yeah, it was pretty much both, really. There was a lot of, I got to a point where it was like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Communication. That's up there, number one.
Communication is my number one value. And I think that's really important, to be able to connect and communicate well, and not come from trauma. And I think that makes a massive difference. If we clean up that, then we're actually coming at it from two humans rather than two broken people.
And someone will get hurt and take sides and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. There is that. It's also clouding clouding judgment as well. So if we're still coming through a trauma lens, that's all we'll still see, unless we've really worked on it and really transformed it. That's all you will see.
And what else is important in a relationship?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think respect is a massive one, that there is a respect for each other. Especially if you're very different. Like if you've cleaned all your stuff up, you're not bringing baggage into a relationship, but having respect for another person as a human being, for their likes and dislikes, I think that's really good. And that understanding, because that understanding is still connection and communication. I think that makes a massive difference. And then that ability, though, to actually sit down and have really good conversations, to really talk about what you value, what you want to achieve in life, what you want to goal set, how do you want this to come together, and how do you both want it to look, and then look moving forward at each different stage, and then keep coming together, going, are we on the same page? Are we working towards the same goals, or has something changed? And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah. And so what you're saying before is honesty important too?
Well, honesty for me is part of that respect.
Yeah. So it's kind of like often, some people will consider themselves to be honest, and myself included, but you're actually not being honest to yourself. Like you're not saying really how it is.
No, that's exactly right. And I think that still comes from very much a trauma lens as well. And it's how they view themselves. They don't want somebody to see this, so they'll pretend that it's different.
Everything's okay.
Everything's okay, and I was in that bucket. Then you could be the ones that like, oh, I bought that, but I hid that because I don't want them to know that I spent money, and like that honesty, because that's not being honest with themselves as well as not being honest within a relationship. And so for me, honesty and respect go hand in hand. Like if you're respecting someone, you're honest with them, and the same with yourself. If you respect yourself, you're honest. If you're honest, you respect yourself.
Yeah, because like if you say you bought something and you'd promised that you weren't going to buy something, then you're actually breaking your own promise.
That's correct.
So that's it is. It's that being honest with yourself. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's important too, and it's really interesting when you start to really value that and how that changes relationships as well.
Yes, yeah, that was the first thing that turned my relationship around, definitely. Because that truth leads to the trust.
Well, it does, doesn't it? And unfortunately, I didn't have that in mine. There was no trust in our relationship.
Goes back to wanting to change, doesn't it?
It does. And when someone doesn't want to change, even though they could be hurting,
they
could in the most depressed, darkest, blackest place, if they don't want to change, nothing's going to change.
No.
And you can only do so much to get them there. And the old saying is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's the same thing. It's like you can show them and give them all the people that they could talk to or the skills that they need, but they still have to make that decision and that choice whether they're going to do it or not.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking when they don't choose it.
Yes, so true. And also it can relate to forgiveness too, as well. Like that idea that I think it was Wayne Dwyer said that it's like, actually no, it could have been Dalai Lama as well. But everybody says some version is like, taking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. That's totally. It's all about that responsibility, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. And that's it. And in all reality, we are responsible for ourselves only. That's it. We're not responsible for anybody else. We're only responsible for who we are and the decisions that we make.
Yeah.
That's it. And we always, I hear very frequently, but they made me do it,
Yeah.
or it's their fault. And they
Yes.
don't take that responsibility that their actions did something. And that eats you away inside. I think that really can create quite severe illnesses within people when
Absolutely.
those little pockets just sit there and fester. How our body remembers every single thing, and you can't lie to your body; it knows.
Yes, it's like a record of of your thoughts.
It certainly is, and I think if more understood that when you look at someone, you can see a record of their entire life in their body.
Mm.
They tell you that there's nothing wrong. You go, okay, you can't help them until they acknowledge or accept it, and then that they can do something about it. And it's
Yes.
still a choice.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's part of respect as well, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think respecting other people's choices in that way, where you know that you can help them, but they don't want your help, is a really hard respect to
Yeah,
have.
true.
Mm.
And then you get the choice. You can stay
That's
or you
right.
can move on
That's exactly
because
right.
yeah, like it may not be worth it. Yeah.
No, and you really have to really decide on that, and that's a personal choice, and no
Whether
one
it's worth
can
your energy.
well, that's it, but nobody can make that choice for you.
No. No.
Mm. It's like, is the pain of staying less than the pain of leaving, or the other way around? Yeah.
Mm.
And then you realize that whatever it is for you, do the work and step into your own power.
Yes. So what's your closing wisdom for anybody listening today?
Closing wisdom would be really look at yourself and where you want to be for you, not for anybody else, but you. And to get you there, it's about unpacking and letting go of the baggage and transforming that so you really can be the best that you can be for you. And that's what I tell all my women. It's like, you're doing this for yourself, not for anybody else. That's pretty much it.
Beautiful. And how can people find you?
Well, my website is discoverthepoweroftouch.com. So that's really easy. On social media, it's Louise Kerwin or Discover the Power of Touch. It's findable on both. Pretty active on both. So yeah, I've got freebies around on reducing cortisol, as well as slimming your body, slimming your mind. So that's my weight reduction one, which is about mindset to help you reduce your weight, and my cortisol to really help support women about really noticing their own nervous systems and calming their nervous system down, which reduces their cortisol, which means that they can start to feel better within themselves quite quickly, and that reduces weight also in the long run.
And so you've got that program starting next year?
Yes, the cortisol one is starting in the new year. But it's aimed at calming that nervous system place and really empowering you, but also looking at diet and nutrition in different ways to really calm the body. That's the best part. As it could be as simple as sticking a finger in your ear and wiggling it around, or singing in the car and in the shower, because it still activates your vagus nerve.
I love that.
Such simple things that you can do on an everyday basis to help your body go, I don't have to run from tigers.
Take a breath. People forget to breathe.
They do, very much so. And I teach all my clients how to breathe properly. So that's one of my
fantastic.
Yeah, it's a big one. When most people for a chest breathe, and teaching them how to abdominally breathe is really important.
It's fun.
It is
All
fun,
right.
and because I like communicating, and like I said,
Yeah, same.
it's nice to have that conversation. Yeah, it's just
Mm.
like, thank you. Really
And,
appreciate.
like there could be some kind of collaboration maybe, with my recipe for respect, because I want it to be healthy stuff and, about the messages, that we talk about to ourselves and all that sort of stuff within food.
Oh, very much so. And this is sugar. It's like I don't have it with any other food,
Very
but
powerful, isn't it?
it's more addictive than crack cocaine and ice.
Yeah.
It really is, which is why people abuse it the way they do.
I watched a movie called The Pain Hustlers last night.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's about pharmaceuticals.
Oh, where's
You
that
should
on?
watch it on Netflix.
Oh, is it? I might watch that.
Okay. Oh,
Lovely.
thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Anwyn. It was great today.
Hmm,
Pleasure.
brilliant.